Hello everyone, welcome to the second SelfCAD webinar. I will just do a small test if everything is okay. If I see that we have sound and video, we can actually start with the webinar. If you can just give me a sign if you can hear me, then I will actually start start the presentation. Can you hear me clear? Okay. I'm assuming I can be heard, so I will actually start discussing what we are going to do today. So once again, welcome to the second SelfCAD webinar. Today we are going to discuss 3D sketch and freehand drawing. My name is Peter Chrapkiewicz. I'm the tech developer in SelfCAD. You might remember me from the first webinar. Before we start, just as last time, feel free to leave any questions in the chat. Whenever I have as per minute, I will actually try to answer the question. Even if those questions are related to some modeling examples, feel free to leave them. I will try to handle them as well. Today we are going to do a small inception because I actually have this webinar was prepared mostly by Victoria, our designer. Big thanks to Victoria for preparing the videos. And those videos basically are showing me what exactly to do in the webinar and what's the process. She didn't really want me to show the pre-recorded stuff, so I just took a screenshot of the end result. This is basically how it looks. It's actually pretty amazing, and I hope we can come a little close to what she designed, because I'm not really that talented in modeling. So I will just explain how to do how to use particular tools to actually get to the end result this way. Alright, so I think we can start. Let's create our new project. I will call it simply drawing project. And before we actually go to the project-based example, I want to show the differences between freehand and 3D sketch, and also explain some maybe a little hidden stuff, some functionalities that you might not have seen before. I hope they can actually help you to use them in the future and make your life a little easier when it comes to using those. So first of all, freehand is a tool, a drawing tool, that even if you can actually use multiple planes, if you choose the change the plane settings and, for example, enable back and front, you will end up having two planes. But the way you need to look at the tool is actually, it's still related to single plane drawing, because the solutions are not really connected between the planes. So you can use multiple planes, but you still have to think about simple 2D drawing, which is finalized by extrusion. So even if I draw, for example, on those two different planes and finalize, I will actually get results that are not really connected to each other, and this is simply extrusion of the drawing that I made on both of the planes. When it comes to 3D sketch, you can actually start using all 3 dimensions at once, and it will actually affect the end result. So if I start drawing, for example, line sketch between those two planes, you will notice that I'm actually drawing on both of the planes at once, and I use all 3 of the dimensions to generate my end result. To fill this shape and convert it to something that is more meaningful than a profile, you can go to fill polygons. And this basically generates your surface, and you will notice that this surface is actually the positions of the vertices are actually in all 3 coordinates at once. So that's the main idea behind those 2 drawings. I will show 2 simple examples that you can draw with both of the types of drawings, and show also what else you can do with 3D sketch, and what also are like the additional stuff you can do by combining both of those types of drawings. And I will also show what you can actually do with 3D sketch more. So we are going to make a simple example by drawing 2 rectangles. One of the rectangles will be drawn in freehand. I'm turning on the minimum step size and minimum angle step just to be able to draw straight lines. I could also enable the grid snapping to grid vertices. It would basically give the same result, but let's do it this way for now. So this way I actually, after finalizing, created a rectangular shape, and I want to do the same in 3D sketch. So I do the same. I basically enable the same settings, also using a rectangle drawing, and I'm drawing a rectangle this way. You will notice that this is not really converting when I close the tool, it's not really converting the profile to a shape. Profiles are meant to be just lines, or you can actually also use arcs and splines, but those can be used in multiple purposes. It's not they don't have the same purpose as meshes straight away. Usually you use profiles to generate meshes, so I will show a few methods how you can actually do it. One of them is fill polygons, which I already showed, and we are also going to use those methods that I'm showing right now in the project-based example, which Victoria prepared. And I think revolve is the only one that is not won't be shown in the course in the project itself. So I'm actually going to show it right now. So the thing that I'm doing is basically I'm enabling revolve from the tools, and now I get a circular extrusion around the profile itself. If I want to revolve around an edge, I can choose the button here from the left side panel, and I can simply click on an edge. This resulted in those dark faces, which indicate that those faces are actually flipped right now. So what I need to do is actually press the flip normal just to fix the orientation of the faces. This way I actually created something like a cylinder. If I, for example, take the polygon selection, select this polygon and remove it, you will notice that this is actually inside it's actually manifold, because the inner parts were removed because of the simple fact that I was revolving around an edge. Another thing that you can do with profiles is, for example, the follow path. If I draw a second profile, let's say we draw a circle like this, I can actually select both of those profiles while the first object that is selected is the subject, and the second selected one is always the path itself that I want to use. Then we are going to use the follow path, which in other software is sometimes called sweep or spline extrusion. I think those are the namings that are used mostly. So if you enable the tool and press preview, basically what's happening is that this profile is taken as the input of the for the algorithm, and it basically sweeps this profile around the second profile, which was used as a path for sweeping in this scenario. And the last thing that you can do with profiles, I mean, besides the fact that you can actually use all of the transformations that are available, so you can even use vertex selection and basically just select vertices and start moving them around, and you can modify this way your profile. You can also use things like, for example, extrusion. So if I use extrusion on that, and let's say we extrude 10, you will notice that this actually created like a cube-like shape with the edges itself. So what I can do right now is just go to fill polygons, and if I fill this, it will actually generate a very similar shape to what we achieved with freehand drawing. The biggest advantage of 3D Sketch, as I mentioned previously, is that you can use all three dimensions at once. So this way I enabled override step size, which means that it ignores the minimum, those two settings actually, whenever you have something to intersect with. So for example, at this moment I'm actually snapping to this vertex, so it ignores those settings, so I can actually just use the existing pieces to snap my lines to. And if we want to create a ramp, you can actually do what I just present. You can just snap the lines to those vertices. Keep in mind to always connect the parallel lines as well, the perpendicular ones. And if you are done with this, you can actually just press fill polygons once again, and this way you actually generated a ramp between those two shapes. You can use this to create staircases and things like that. So this is I think the biggest advantage when it comes to 3D Sketch over freehand. Freehand, this is something I already explained on the last webinar, is based on has a functionality that we call clipping. Clipping means that whenever you draw something and you start adding different parts to it, the solutions actually get connected. So if you, for example, use draw, it will add to the existing shapes whatever you choose to draw next to it. If you use erase, it will actually act as an eraser, but you can also use erase in the middle of the shapes to actually create something we call holes. If I finalize this, you will notice that there is this small hollow part which you can actually end up with by finalizing the freehand process. So on the other hand, if I would like to do something like that in 3D Sketch, if I draw the same shape and now if I add the intersecting rectangle, you will notice that those two solutions actually did not strictly get joined together. We still do an intersection between those two rectangles, and we do it automatically. In other software, you might have to use a tool called trim to actually remove those parts. We do an automatic intersection, so you can just simply select by, for example, choosing edge selection from the right side panel selection cube, and you can just select them and remove the edges like that. And now if I would go to fill polygons, I would end up filling this, but I also want to show the other case, which was using eraser to actually generate holes. So now you notice that it actually doesn't really do anything with the profiles. It does not mark them red as in freehand. So what we get when we do fill polygons right now, we actually get the inside part filled as well. But this is not really a big problem because you still get those indexed as polygons. So if I go to polygons and part selection, you will actually notice that I can single click on the polygon and it will select the entire thing at once. This has more sense when you have, for example, circular holes or more complex hole where there is a lot more faces to select. So it would be a really redundant process to actually select all of the faces. So we index them for you so you can actually select them at once and just, for example, remove them, and this way you basically create the same shape that we generated previously by using freehand drawing. There are two more, I call them hidden, but I hope we, I call them hidden but because we don't really have any tooltips for them, so you kind of need to know that there is such functionality. If I, for example, draw something like this right now, I will also use this later in the project-based example. So you will see a little more of this. So if I decide now that I actually want to use 3D shapes to be converted to drawing, if I'm in freehand drawing, everything that I drag and drop to the scene actually gets flattened and converted to a drawing. So if I, for example, choose, you can use either the scene graph, so everything that you prepare as a mesh you can actually convert, and you can also convert profiles. So even if this would be a profile, I can actually still drag and drop it. But the same functionality comes with 3D shapes. So if I decide that I actually want to drag and drop this torus node, then I can actually do it, and it will also do the operations, the clipping operation that I discussed earlier. So you see that the inner part of the torus actually got converted to a hole. So if I finalize this, you can actually see that we generated something like this. Another thing that is that comes with 3D Sketch, which probably not a lot of people are using right now. Actually, not really this one. I'm sorry. I wanted to show the freehand, and there is the height settings in freehand, but with freehand there comes one additional functionality, which is what we do with the freehand drawing when you actually set the height to 0. One of the things that we do here is that we actually, when you finalize right now, we actually convert this to a profile. This is one of the functionalities that you get, and as I said, you can still drag and drop profiles to the scene by just using the drag and drop functionality from the scene graph. And another functionality that comes with the height setting 0 is when you go to the fill settings, here you actually get a different drop down for the fill settings. One of the settings is holes, which basically just ignores holes if you uncheck this setting. But there is also this setting called polygons, and if you enable the polygons and finalize, you will notice that it actually converts the freehand drawing to surfaces. The surfaces. Okay, I see that we have a question. What's the difference between follow path and fill polygons? Fill polygons I'm not sure if this won't sound confusing, but fill polygon basically is filling with triangles the currently selected profile. So if you have, for example, a cube or even some less complicated shapes like a wedge or something, you can actually just press fill polygon to generate the triangles between the edges. Triangles or quads, it depends on what we actually what can we do with the triangulation itself. When it comes to follow path, it actually is using an extrusion. So think about it like if you draw, let's say, a path with profiles. So let me just prepare something to explain this. So if you do something like this, and let's say we do next, we rotate this a little, and now we do it like this. And now if you would basically draw a line that is not the part of those profiles. Let's say we drew something like this. Okay, let me actually make it completely precise. So if I draw from here to here and then to here, okay, I actually need to move it up so it's completely perfect. So this is the path that you are using for follow path, and let's say one of the circles is the input profile that you want to use for sweeping. So this is basically what follow path is doing. It sweeps the profile along the path, and it adds triangles, in this particular case quads, between all of the profiles that are swept along the path this way. I hope this explains it more or less. If you didn't get the idea, please let me know. I will try to explain this a little more precise, maybe. Okay, so I think that basically covers the differences between freehand and 3D Sketch. And I guess we can move on to the project-based example. So what we are going to use in the project-based example is actually reference image. Reference image is a tool that is used in modeling really a lot, and I'm going to use this particular picture for it. And reference image can be used in all types of modeling, in drawing, in hard surface modeling, in sculpting. You basically use reference image really a lot in modeling, just to help yourself out and make your life easier to have something to reference to. So what I'm usually doing when I use the reference image is going to the top view, at least at the beginning. Later on I will use the camera actually quite a lot, especially the arrows on the keyboard, which allow me to pan the camera around the image, just to make it easier for me to actually follow the picture itself. So what we are going to use is freehand drawing. We are going to use mostly splines, but I will also show when to use different tools. I will also show a few tricks that you can use when using those. The first thing that we are going to do is actually turn off minimum step size and minimum angle size. So we have a completely free way of generating our points, and it will be much easier to follow the picture this way. So basically what we do, we start following the edges, the lines that we are seeing on the picture itself, and we follow the picture with the splines that we generate. The thing that I like to do here is actually, okay, I won't be able to do it here, never mind. So this way I will basically follow the picture and generate an end solution. For straight lines, you can always switch to line and just connect the spline with different elements, especially lines in this case. Every time you snap to the end point or start point, you will get a green indicator. I hope it's visible on the video, and this means that you are actually currently snapping to the end point, and allows you to continue the drawing correctly. If you don't snap, there might be sometimes cases where the drawing is actually not closed, and in this case the finalization of the drawing itself might not really work as expected. I will change the height in the height settings to 10 and finalize. Every time I draw something, I will actually change the color. You could also change the name of it just to make it better for you, and I will hide the part just to have a clear scene to continue drawing, not 3D Sketch, but freehand. And I'm going to show a few of those just to show you also some tricks and then I will actually move to a different project of mine where I already have some of the parts prepared. Okay, so moving on, we basically draw around the shapes. You don't have to be completely precise with the drawings, because it will always sometimes you actually want to draw differently just to make it a little better looking. And also you notice here that I'm actually going a lot over the previous piece, because this will be combined in the end, so I don't really have to worry about the end result right now. Height to 5 and finalize. I will choose a color for it. Sure, maybe something like that. Maybe this is better. And once again, I will hide it. And moving on, not 3D sketch, but freehand, once again. And just to show the idea in general, and to be perfect with this approach, you should actually use a lot more of primitives. So whenever you notice on the picture that there is something that reminds an arc, for example, it's good to actually start using arcs or circles, or even if you have like text shape, you should actually use those primitives to generate the end result, the drawing itself better. It's if you follow the exact primitives that you find on the picture, it's actually much better in the end result. So what I'm going to do now for the eyes, I'm actually going to use circles just to make it much faster. Okay, that doesn't look good. Let me make it a little smaller. Okay, and if you finalize it, okay, I actually did not change the height, so the eyes are popping out way too much. So what I'm going to do is just scaling them down, and once again I will change the color. Let's make those actually black. Okay, and I will just show one more piece, which is this particular, I mean, like the hand, and I'm not sure what's this called in English, I'm sorry. So I'm just going to show you a small trick. When you start drawing splines, you can actually use a technique that allows you to simplify a lot of the corners. So even if you are in spline drawing, if you double click on the last point, you actually finalize the current spline. So every next drawn stroke is actually a new spline, and you can use this even to draw lines. So without changing the mode of drawing right now, if I double click on the last point and then I use snapping once again, I can actually triple click to achieve a straight line between those 2 points. Here I need to basically do the same without going to the line mode. So basically triple click and you can move on with the next drawing like that. All right, so I think this should cover freehand around reference image a little. We will still go back to it because we are going still to use it for table and so on. And yeah, so this is the moment I will actually switch to the other project, just to continue from there, because I already have this part prepared there. I will just show one more thing, because this is I think actually important, that if we unhide this by choosing from the view show all, I will just show one method that that I was actually using on the other project as well. In the main video that Victoria has prepared, she's actually using a lot of sculpting sculpting with inflate to generate a more 3D like look for the pieces, for the parts. What I decided to use is actually inflate. So what I do is okay, let me actually, before I do this, if you go to inflate, you actually get an information. Try adding resolution to make inflating smoother. So this is basically what I'm doing. I'm setting the resolution to 5 just to get much more details on the geometry, like that. I will hide it just so it looks better. And if I use inflate now, the settings that I need to do is symmetry, and I guess this is actually fine here. So if I start doing inflate, you will see that this will actually inflate on both of the sides, and this way you save a lot of time on the inflating part, because you can actually just use this approach. It's not that perfect, so we won't get this amazing result, sadly, with this approach, but for beginners this is much better, because you save a lot of time when it comes to sculpting itself, and it's just a much easier process in the end. So the last step for this would be actually rotating it. So I will just show the rotating process on those few elements that we have here. Okay, let me just position this more or less correctly. So if you select everything and rotate, in this case we need to go actually under the 0 value and rotate 270 degrees. And we have this logic whenever something goes below the workspace, we move it up so it actually fits the workspace. So in this case I only have the head, but I will show the example where I actually have everything already prepared. So let me just switch to my different project. Once it loads, you will see that we have some result, but it's not really as perfect as the one that Victoria has prepared. It needs to be enough for now. Okay, so we are going to move to the other pieces, and to do it we can actually start. We can first of all hide all of the pieces. I already imported a cube here, a cup here, which you can, for example, get from my mini factory by just using search and writing cup. You get a lot of free objects here. Of course, I cannot really use them because they are marked as not use commercially, so I don't want to get troubles because of it. But there are a lot of objects. If you type in SelfCAD, you also get a lot of objects that are created in our software, and you can just use them if you don't want to spend a lot of time of generating a cup yourself. I hope I can convince Victoria that we actually upload also the exact process how she was making the end result. She's also showing how to actually create the coffee cup there, which is much nicer than the one that I'm actually using in the video. So let's hide this for now, and actually let's hide everything. And we are going to move with creating the table. I will create the plate under the coffee cup a little later. So first of all, we are going to create the table, and to do so we can use, actually freehand is fine enough. We can use rectangle drawing to achieve the correct end result. Okay, so I need to be a little more precise here to actually make it at least somewhat similar to the one in the project. I could use simple line drawing. This would give me a better precision, I guess. And we finalize, and we can actually scale it just to make it a little more 3D. So the next thing that we are going to do is the legs of the table, and here I'm actually going to use follow path once again. So once again I will just hide. Actually, let me change the color first, and I can hide that one. So what we are going to do, and the way we are going to prepare this, we are just simply going to create profiles I will disable the precision settings once again. Create profiles that follow the legs of the table. And I will do both of them at once because we can actually handle multiple paths like that as well. Okay, let me just read the question. I will use the occasion to actually take a sip of water. Is there any option to move vertex into vertex on two surface model and join union them? Okay, so I'm assuming that this is about connecting two points. I'm assuming this is on okay, so two surfaces. So if I get this correct, those should be two different meshes in this scenario, or should this be one model that has two surfaces? If this is one model that has two surfaces, then the best method to actually do it is we actually are going to have a welding tool really soon, which will also allow to do the same thing. But for now, there are, I think, two methods to do it. The one that I'm usually using, maybe it's not the best, is to actually use remove duplicates. So you actually position two vertices on the same place, for example using snap, and okay, let me actually show it. So if I decide to right now snap the vertex to another, then I can go to snap and I can choose the other vertex, which will automatically move the vertex to the other position. Okay, we actually have the collapse vertices functionality. So if you choose this vertex, okay, I'm sorry, once again, if you choose this vertex and go to snap, you can actually press collapse vertices, which will straight away remove, actually it gives you the information that it will create duplicates. So after you do this process, you can go to the remove duplicates, and it will actually pops up information that it removed one edge and one vertex from the current selection. So once again, you use snap, you press collapse vertices, and then you simply remove duplicates with the remove duplicates tool. Yeah, I hope it covers. If you have any other question related, feel free to actually ask it. Okay, so back to the follow path. Victoria was using a regular shape for this part. We can actually try to use a circle once again as previously. So I just created a circle. Okay, I'm sorry, I actually have the same profile selected, so I need to create a separate one. Now I can select those paths and I can go to follow path and try to actually extrude this. You will notice that it actually generates a really nice joint here by using it this way, and it also extruded along both of the paths at once. So we can finalize this. If I unhide my table, I can actually start positioning this a little better. I will rotate it in the end because we still need to kind of rotate the table so it matches the rest of the picture. Okay, let me just find, okay, I actually have this profile selected. I will just remove the profiles so they are not in the way in the end. And what I'm going to do to actually generate the remaining legs is using copy drag. By holding Ctrl while the move transformation is enabled, I can move and copy at once just to create copies that are already on a different dimension than the original ones. Okay, so once we have this done, we can actually select everything and rotate once again 270 degrees. Let me show all, and let's just see if this is more or less positioned correctly. Now we have those parts going out, so I guess I will have to scale them down. Okay, I actually forgot to select one of the legs, so let me just undo this and rotate it once again, just to make it easier. And once again, show all, and I'm going to select the legs only and actually scale them down so they don't intersect so much with the table itself. All right, so that should be fine. Let's color them, I guess something like that should be okay. So the next thing that we need to do is actually align the coffee cup on top of the table. So the easiest way is to go to utilities and go to align. And as our reference, okay, so this would be tricky. I need to actually rename this to table just to make it easier for myself to find it in the list. So once again, I select the coffee cup, align, and from the reference, I need to choose the table. And by default, we have the bottom alignment. So what I need to do is actually top, and it remember the last setting as back, so I need to make it center. So once it's on the table, I can actually start scaling it down a little, and there are two ways to achieve it. I can either keep proportion and start scaling down, but this would lose the alignment, so I will just actually use gizmos to do it. So I can change all of the dimensions and just make it good. So okay, so here is another functionality that comes with reference image, because now we are actually already rotated. So to make it easier, I can actually move the object, and once I go to the back of the scene, it actually positions itself on the back of the plane. So this way I actually get a better alignment right now. And if I decide that I want to actually make the coffee cup exactly the same size and on the same position, I can actually use the reference image just to make it better. Okay, so if I go to the front view, and for example, or even in orthographic, you should more or less get the alignment between the elements like that. Okay, so just a quick look. What else do we have here? So I won't show everything because we probably won't have enough time. So I will just make a decision to show a few of the elements, and I will show probably the easiest ones, or actually let me figure out what would be related to drawing itself mostly. I think we are going to go with those elements with the leaves of the flowers, and so let's actually move to those ones, and I will show maybe how to generate the entire shape like that. Okay, so once again, let's hide everything, and let's try to generate those elements. So what we are going to simply do is using a sphere, and we are going to use cube selection to remove the top part of the selection cube. Just finalize, and after using inverse selection, actually let me do it again, because I think we just made it a little too small, the cutting. Okay, so once again, inverse selection. This way you select everything else that besides what was selected, and we can simply delete. This way we create this is not really manifold, because this is just like it doesn't have any thickness. So to convert this to an actual manifold mesh, we need to, for example, use add thickness. Another way is to use fill, but that's not what we are trying to achieve right now. So we have this element, and now we need to actually generate the flower leaves. So once again, I'm going to hide this, and let's try to do it in freehand drawing. So okay, so I will just put on a reference because I did not really check how Victoria is doing it, so I actually want to do it in a similar fashion. Okay, so she's basically using spline drawing to it, and just okay. All right, so this is here we actually will see something that I did not discuss yet, and that our drawing actually has an additional option called Symmetry. Before I continue, I actually want to show one of the features that we didn't cover anywhere yet, I think, which is called pattern drawing, and I think it's actually really nice, and I just want to show it like besides the actual project based, just so you know that there is such functionality. We have 3 different patterns here. For example, a star pattern. This is also using clipping methods, so you can actually even remove parts from it. Okay, I still have the pattern enabled, so it actually does an erasing with stars right now, and this can be used in multiple ways. So if, for example, I use no pattern, actually drawing no pattern for this piece, and then I decide to use a star pattern for erasing, I can actually generate holes like that. So if I finalize this, you can actually see that we generated a mesh from the pattern itself. So that's probably the only functionality we won't cover in this course, so I just wanted to show it as an addition. You can really play around with the patterns. You can even get your own SVGs and upload them and just generate really amazing stuff. Okay, so let's move on. So the thing that I will show now is the symmetry, and symmetry basically allows you to draw in both of the directions from a plane that you choose from the settings. So we have X, Y, and Z to choose. X means basically that you will do the symmetry towards the X direction. So you can see that the helper cubes are actually moving in this direction right now. So if I start drawing this way, I can actually start generating the leaves. I'm pretty sure I won't do it as good as Victoria, but let's try to actually make something out of it. Okay, I actually need to take a look how she's doing it, because I don't want to mess this up completely. Okay, all right, so just a little wider and we should be fine. Okay, and really small connection between this part. I think this should be more or less looking okay. A little manual work, and let's finish it, for example, like this. Once again, the green indicator indicates that you actually snapped, and this means that the drawing will actually finalize correctly. This will take a moment, because I think this is quite a lot of details. I hope everything finalizes correctly. In the meantime, I will just take a look what's going on in the chat. Okay, sorry for that. I sadly think that something went wrong here. Okay, I sadly will have to actually refresh this and try again. Sorry about that. Didn't happen before when I was trying it. Okay, I will just... Okay, sorry about that. It's just those kind of things seem to happen always when you're live. Let me try again. Okay, I hope this time it works without any issues. Just in case I will decrease the smoothness, maybe I just did too many details. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm actually using 3D Sketch by accident. Let's back to Freehand. And Symmetry once again. And let's finalize the green indicator once again. I just hope we didn't run into some... Okay, this time it worked. I got scared. Okay, sorry about that. I will take a look what actually went wrong then there, and we will try to fix as soon as possible. All right, so moving on, we have the first piece, and what we want to do, let me just check the detail level. It's actually pretty, there is pretty quite a lot of details, so I think we can just go straight away to use bending, and we are going to just bend this slightly so we can have a better result. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is to position everything correctly. Let me show all. And I can change the color of this to actually something more flowerish. Okay, so... And I will make 2 copies just to make it a little better looking. And once again, okay, and we can just position it here. It's probably not perfect. Okay, let me just move it a little more. Okay, I can try to bend it a little more or something like that. Okay, it's not perfect, but you will probably, if you spend a little more time on it, you will actually get something much more amazing. Okay, so okay, so I think we will stop here. Once again, I hope that Victoria will actually, I can convince her to make the entire tutorial how to prepare this. This looks much better than the one that I created, but I hope I could cover the basics. So after watching how exactly the entire process is made, you can actually get an idea how to do it. Victoria covers much more sculpting, which is, as I said, I think a little more advanced, but I think it's still worth learning, and you can actually generate such an amazing scenery on your own, basically. Okay, if you still have any questions, please feel free to ask them, and if we don't have anything, I think we will just stop here. I think we will going to have another webinar soon. There was a poll before this one, so I think for the next one you will also get a chance to vote what exactly you would like to get covered, which tools. So feel free to just leave a vote, and then we will hopefully make a next webinar anytime soon. All right. If we don't have any questions, and then I think we will stop here. Thank you very much for listening. Feel free to leave a like, a subscription, and see you soon, I hope. Take care. Bye.